Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy Commander class Motormaster, the leader of the Stunticons and of course the main skeleton to form the combiner that is Menasor. And this has got to be one of, if not the most anticipated characters to grace Legacy, so this should definitely be a good review. Now as we jump straight into the video, as you guys can see I have Motormaster transformed up into both the truck and trailer and not looking too bad at all. Now despite this looking pretty decent, I will be honest and say that out of all of the individual modes, this is certainly my least favourite. I just think that as far as the trailer is concerned, there has definitely been a lot of compromises made here to it in this form, and it's no doubt considering that there is just so much engineering packed into this. This will become a battle station for Motormaster when in robot mode, and will be the main skeleton to actually attach our Stunticons onto when in combined form. So of course there were always going to be some compromises, but as we just take a look here from a side perspective, I do find it to be on the slight shorter side. I do wish that maybe it was just ever so slightly longer to better match the animation, but other than that, here from the side, not looking too bad. You can see we do have a very nice metallic purple strip, which sadly is broken up at this section. Not too sure why they couldn't paint that, but we do get the Decepticon insignia. Here at the rear you can see some very nicely painted wheels, and even as we spin our attention to the back, despite there being various different hinge joints due to transformation, they have tried their best to kind of replicate the locks on the rear doors as well as the tail lights. Now another issue I have with this is considering it is a very hefty and weighty piece. When actually playing with this once attached to Motormaster in this mode, I personally have found these wheels to give in very easily. They are merely just tabbed in via a very small peg, and it really doesn't take much to dislodge them, creating for a slightly bizarre look here from a front perspective. As I just attach this, you guys can see that they are merely just secured in via a very small tab, and considering how much weight is actually in this, I do wish there was a slightly better locking mechanism, but that really is just a minor critique. As we take a look here at the front, I'm still not a big fan of these obvious combiner ports sticking out. I really think it would have been pretty easy to just add an additional component over the top to conceal this, make it look a lot more animation accurate, but once again it's still not terrible. And if you don't wish to display this with Motormaster, we can just flip the kickstand out and set it off to the side. Now as we bring this guy in here for a closer look, I think he's pretty much perfect. Here in truck mode he looks fantastic. As we just home in on the details in regards to the front, you can see a very nice gunmetal used for the grille as well as the bumper. You can see various different nuts and bolts scattered throughout the flat nose truck, as well as this Decepticon purple for the windscreen, the front visor, as well as here for the side view windows. Overall, not looking too bad at all. As we spin our attention here to the side, once again, more very impressive sculpt work. Sadly, this section has been cast out of white and isn't the same black as we're seeing here for the cab, but I do believe this has been cast out of a slightly different material, meaning that it was unable to be sprayed black. So I guess just a minor critique, definitely not something that would ruin the figure. We do have a Decepticon logo, some very nicely painted metallic rims here for the front as well as here for the rear. You can see the gas cans, and even the actual trailer hitch itself doesn't look too bad. Some pretty decent sculpt work going on here. No hollowness on this guy at all. Definitely a very solid figure, and that's something that you'll notice across the board for this release. He really does feel jam-packed. There are no hollow spaces. Everything is very tightly compact. Now, as far as some size comparisons are concerned, here we have the Commander Motormaster compared next to the previous release, that being Rodimus Prime. And surprisingly, they are actually pretty much at the exact same size. As I just line the rear section of the trailer up, you can see that Rodimus is ever so slightly bigger as far as this front section is concerned. But believe me when I say, as an overall package, the engineering that has been put into Motormaster absolutely blows Rodimus out of the water, and as you guys all know, this was definitely one of my favourite figures, so we're definitely in for a treat as far as that robot and combined mode is concerned. But to bring out another comparison, here we have him alongside the Earthrise Leader class Optimus Prime, his arch nemesis from that original 80s series, and they just look so good paired alongside one another. I can kind of forgive the slightly smaller trailer. Had they increased the scale of the trailer, they then would have had to make the cab bigger, and then that perhaps would have thrown off the scale between Motormaster and Prime. So I do think this was a nice balance, but as you guys can see, as we turn here to a side-by-side, Motormaster is ever so slightly bigger than Prime, but I really do think this perfectly matches more or less what we saw in the series. And to be honest, I've always personally thought that Motormaster was a better fit for an opponent with Optimus than Megatron. I guess that is a controversial opinion, but they were both flat-nosed trucks, they both had trailers. I really did think that this was kind of the nemesis version of Optimus, and he is the leader of the Stunticons, which will form an awesome combiner. But yeah, definitely these guys look great with one another, and just to showcase how Motormaster looks as just the cab paired alongside Prime, as you guys can see here, not looking too bad at all. A little bigger than Prime, but of course, a very worthy adversary. And for one final vehicle mode comparison, here we have Legacy Motormaster compared alongside Dragstrip and Wild Rider, and they're shaping up to be one of the best combining teams that we've seen from the Generations line in quite some time. Of course, we've just got to wait out now for Dead End and Breakdown, and then we'll have the full set. But as these three are concerned, they just look so good with one another, at least here in their vehicle modes. As we take a look at all of them from a side perspective, definitely very animation accurate, and believe me, once we get into combined form, the three of them make for such an awesome visual. So a very quick recap as far as both the truck and trailer is concerned. Overall, not looking too bad at all. Most of my problems do lay in regards to the trailer, but considering how much engineering has been packed into it, and it does basically act as three different things: a trailer, a battle station, and then the main endoskeleton for our combiner, I am easily able to overcome most of the issues that this has. I do just wish, however, it was slightly longer, and that they could have found a way to have hidden these combiner ports. But as we just set this here off to the side for now, as basically Motormaster is just this cab. Now all of these weapons are stored away in the trailer, and we'll touch base with those when we turn it into the battle station. The transformation for this guy is pretty complex, so to begin with, what I recommend doing would be to take these tires and just fold those in here to the underside. We can then take the forearms and attach them from the back section of the trailer, just like so. And now you're going to want to come here up to the top and just pop these panels open, which will then allow us to freely split the front section of the cab in half. Now you're going to want to hinge these out to the side to take these sections and snap them in there just like so. Rinse and repeat here for this side. We can then come up to the roof section, take these pieces, and this tab will peg into this slot. So just snap that in there. Of course, come to this side and peg this one in here also. You'll now want to straighten out the knees. Now I personally would recommend completely straightening them out so that we can get the maximum amount of height for this guy when in bot form. So just extend them all the way up, and now what you'll want to do is rotate here at the hip so that the big pin is facing the back, and so that the detail that we're seeing here on the front of the thigh does match up with the sculpt work here on this back section. So just to demonstrate, you're going to want to flip this section forwards and then rotate here at the thigh so you can see those lining details do match up with one another. Of course, repeat the same process here for this side. Rotate that section around, and something which I thought was such an amazing attention to detail, and as far as engineering is concerned was so cool to see, is that classic G1 mass shifting. So as we hinge this out to the side, we can rotate this section around, which showcases a much smaller front section of the cab with the tiny 6 wheels fully painted and sculpted here along the side. That was just such an amazing attention to detail. Snap that in there. Of course, comes to this side, rinse and repeat, snap that section in. As we turn our attention to the back, this section will peg in like so, and then that will snap in to fill out the back section of the leg. Rinse and repeat for this side, so snap that in there, push that piece in there, and then as far as these side panels are concerned, there is a tab that will peg into this slot. So just snap that in there. We'll then want to bring the shoulders down. Now these do take quite a bit of force to actually get locked into place, so you're just really going to want to click them in, a very satisfying click, and rinse and repeat here for this side. So just snap that in there, bring these sections down, and now as far as the trailer hitch is concerned, this is going to come up and over the top of the head, hinge down like so, and here at the back we do have a tab that will peg there into that slot. And then for some finishing touches, you'll just want to hinge out the fists, snap that back into place, and of course, repeat the same process here for this side. And there we have Motormaster fully transformed up into his awesome looking robot mode. And this guy's just turned out great. Despite this being a combiner, and a really great combiner at that, I really don't think it has actually hindered the robot mode at all, making this Motormaster by far the best official rendition that we have ever seen for the character. Now as we just bring him in here for a closer look, this guy is undeniably one of the most distinctive Decepticon designs that we have ever seen, and I really do think, especially where that head is concerned, it looks fantastic, incredibly boxed off, much like the original series. You can see as far as that sculpt work goes for the faceplate, that looks wicked with the metallic purple, as well as a darker purple used to pick out the eyes. And as mentioned previously, this guy's chock-a-block. There are no hollow spaces on him at all, so even here at the back of the head, you can see that's been completely filled out as well as sculpted. We do have the trailer hitch here at the back, which to be honest, I actually don't think looks too bad, doesn't bother me at all. You can see as we just work our way down here to the back of the legs, I think they come together pretty nicely. Initially, I wasn't completely sold on just how much was going on for these legs, but getting this guy in hand, they really don't look bad at all. You can see some very nice cybernetic detailing where those knee pads are concerned. Of course, that classic mass shifting for the feet. I just think that is such a nice attention to detail. Those minuscule wheels here along the side, which too have been fully painted as well as sculpted. That is a really, really nice attention to detail. As we work our way back up to the top, you can see some pretty impressive sculpt work for the torso, as well as some outer grey lining just to match the animation model. I think the shoulders and forearms look awesome. Actually completely painted in that slightly off-white, much like we saw in the animation. The attention to detail for this guy is impeccable. We've got the Decepticon logos there on the top of the shoulders, some more of that grey outer lining just to pick out some of the sharper details of the sculpt. Overall, robot mode wise, he looks fantastic. Now, as we delve into articulation, we merely do just get a swivel left to right, mainly due to the nature of the design. Had this been on a ball joint, I imagine it would have looked slightly ugly and more than likely would have been really cut off here at the back. We do get a full rotation here at the shoulders, hinge joints out to the sides, rotation at the bicep, as well as the 90-degree bend there at the elbow. Full wrist rotation. Sadly, unlike Rodimus and some of the other Leader and Voyagers, no individual finger articulation, and I definitely think that's something they could have implemented into this guy. Maybe considering the fists are on the slightly smaller side, it would have been impossible to have got those individual segments, but still, that would have been awesome to see. But nevertheless, we do get a full rotation here at the waist, indented ratchet joints out to the sides where the hips are concerned, as well as backwards. He can, of course, perform the splits. Full rotation here at the thigh, and due to the nature of the transformation, a double bend here at the knee, which allows for way past 90, and here at the ankle we do get an amazing pivot which can rock forwards and backwards. So just as a Motormaster figure in itself, amazing, by far the best official rendition we've ever seen for the character, and considering this guy is a combiner, I'm actually quite surprised that for the most part the bot mode has gone completely unhindered. Now, as mentioned previously, as far as firepower is concerned, it's all packed and stored away within the trailer, so we may as well transform this up into the battle station. Now, the engineering that has actually gone into this alone is mind-blowing. The trailer actually splits into various different segments which you'll want to utilize for both the base and the combining form, and it's just mind-blowing. So first of all, you're going to want to take this front section and just wriggle this off. Once that's detached, it will then free up the included sword for Motormaster. You can see some very nice sculpt work completely painted here out of a gunmetal grey, and I don't think that black plastic looks too bad at all. I will be honest and say that for his robot mode, it's a little too big, yet for the combined mode, I find it to be a little too small. It's kind of in a mid-ground, and I imagine they did that so that in either mode, it didn't look particularly too weird. It still does pass as a pretty decent accessory in both modes, but I do just wish that there were individual weapons so that this could have been a little smaller for the bot mode, and then we could have had a much larger one for that combined form. But there we've got Motormaster with that sword looking pretty wicked. Back now here to the trailer, you're then going to want to take this section and detach that. So there are our three individual segments. This is the torso, these are the arms, and these here are the legs. So we may as well touch base here with this one. Here at the front, you're going to want to detach this, which acts as a locking mechanism. We can then hinge these sections out to the sides, just like so. And then as far as this chest piece is concerned, you're going to want to ratchet the hips down. And then take the chest piece and actually rotate this around. We can set this here off to the side for now. Turn our attention back to this section, and basically you're just going to want to hinge this here in upon itself and snap all the way down along the middle to create the base section for the turret. These pieces will peg there into place, so we can also set this here off to the side. You're then going to want to come now to the arms, split these here right down at the middle, and then as far as their transformation is concerned, bend these panels and then fold those back in. And instead of bending here at this hinge joint, you'll actually want to bend here for the battle station mode. So just to demonstrate that, hinge like so, come to this side, rinse and repeat. So fold this down, snap that section there into place, and of course repeat the same process here for this side, and then bend at this top hinge joint and just set that there off to the side. We can then come now down to the feet, and basically once again you're going to want to split directly down the middle which will then loosen up the main cannon. Now, much like the sword, you can actually have this as its own individual blaster for Motormaster to wield whilst in robot mode, but to be honest, I do find it to be on the slight uglier side, especially the way you have to peg it into the arm. Basically, it snaps in like this, and at least to me, this just looks way too simplistic and cheap, so I'll more than likely just keep it for that turret mode. For the legs, you're actually going to want to transform them into the legs for this battle station mode, so just fold out the feet and the heel spur. We can then fold up the knee pad and rinse and repeat here for this side, so just fold all of this out, and now comes actually combining all of the pieces. So you're going to want to bring back in this chest piece. You'll notice that we do have an asymmetrical design going on here. So basically, you're going to want to take this section. This tab will peg into this port, so just snap that in there, and of course repeat the same process here for this side, so just snap that in. We can then leave that laying flat, bring back in our turret, and then this section will snap into place just like so, and we can fold out the handles. Now here at the base we do have two tabs that will actually slide into some slots here on the underside of the chest piece. Now, to be honest, at least here on my copy, they don't really hold together that well, so it is more or less just kind of a friction connection, so just snap them in there. And then as far as the feet are concerned, you'll notice that we do have a peg right at the base that will snap into this port. Come round here to this side. Let's just straighten everything up. And there we have Motormaster's battle station, which is completely formed out of the trailer. Now, granted, I don't think this looks the best, but for a throwaway mode, something that you can just use if you wish not to put the trailer in storage when having Motormaster in his own robot mode, I don't think it looks too bad at all. You can actually get this guy and have him mounting this gun at the back. So we can have him standing here on the chest piece, slide those hands through those handles, and you can have him gunning down the Autobots when in battle. So I guess for younger collectors, this is going to create for quite a cool battle diorama, and I guess if you had some of your other core class figures, it would create for an almost city base. So it's definitely something you can do, but probably something that after this review, I will never touch base with again. Now, turning to some robot mode comparisons, here we have Motormaster alongside Earthrise leader Optimus, and much like truck mode, I really do think these guys pair amazing with one another, and this is very similar to that Commander class Rodimus Prime. It is a Voyager scale figure, but as far as the engineering is concerned, especially as far as that trailer goes, this guy definitely warrants that Commander price point, and you couldn't have put that Menasor in a Voyager bracket. It just would not have looked great at all. So I really do think this was the best option for this guy, and at least in my opinion, it is the best Motormaster that we've ever seen. But these guys definitely pair really well next to one another. Here he is alongside that Commander Rodimus, pretty much on par as far as robot mode is concerned. It really is just those articulated fingers that I personally would have liked to have seen carried over here for our new commander. Here we have Siege Voyager Megatron, Legacy Leader Blitzwing, and of course the rest of the Stunticons that have been released so far, Dragstrip and Wild Rider. And much like vehicle mode, these truly are shaping up to be some of the best combiners that we've seen from the Generations line in a very long time, at least since that Studio Series Michael Bay Devastator, at least in my opinion. Definitely be sure to let me know down in the comment section below your thoughts, but I really do think these are the best incarnations we've seen for these characters in a very long time. Now, as far as transformation to combine mode is concerned, this is where things really begin to heat up, especially as far as an engineering perspective goes. I think there are some tricks that this guy has that we have never before seen in regards to the Transformers mainline, making this by far one of the most enjoyable transformations that I have ever seen. Now, we'll start off firstly here with the Motormaster component. I was incredibly intrigued to see as to how this actual robot would incorporate within the combiner, and he basically becomes the torso, the back, and the head of Menasor. So to begin with, you're going to want to take the fists and just compress those to the underside, fold up this panel, and of course repeat the same process here for this side. We'll then want to rotate at the waist so that the front is now facing the back, and you'll want to take this trailer hitch and pull this over the top of Motormaster's head, which will then allow us to lift this section here out, and then we can take Menasor's head, extend this here all the way up, and take Motormaster's and just fold that there into this cavity. And there is a tiny lip that will actually peg into this slot, just solidifying that head there. We can take the horns, hinge those up just like so, and already that's looking to be an amazing head sculpt. What I would then recommend to do would be to hinge this section down. We can take these shoulders, disengage just like this. And now you're going to want to take this section here and hinge this to the back. As far as these go, we're going to want to rotate the shoulders inwards, rotate here at the bicep so that this purple cylinder is facing forwards, and then bend at the elbow, and this tiny little circular port will actually peg into this tab. So just snap that section in there. Of course, rinse and repeat the same process here for this side. Just snap that securely there into place. Now, as far as the transformation for the legs are concerned, I personally would recommend disengaging the knee pads. We can then hinge out to the sides. You'll then want to take this section, fold this up, as we're actually going to tuck this double knee joint inside, and then compress that back up like so. Now this tab will peg here into this slot, so hinge this all the way up until that there does click in very, very securely. And then this section will come down. You'll notice how we have a tab. This will peg into this slot, so snap that in there. And then this section here will also snap into place, and that is one half completely transformed. Rinse and repeat here for this side. So rotate at the thigh, take this section, hinge this out to the sides, dip this double knee joint into that hollow cavity, and then collapse this back up. And as you guys can see, yet again, another slot that this tab here will peg into. So just snap that in there, take this section, fold that down, peg that in, and then just snap that in. And there we have Motormaster fully transformed up into his combined segment for Menasor. Now, shifting gears once again back over here to the battle station. To begin with, you're going to want to detach this turret. Now, sadly, this actually doesn't have a role to play in the transformation of the combined mode at all. This is literally how it will stay for that combined mode. And considering it's such a gigantic piece, I do in a way kind of wish they would have found a way to have actually implemented this into the transformation. But regardless, all you'll really want to do here for combined form is to just flip this purple section around and snap that into place so that it is a little longer, so that the combined mode can actually now grip onto these handles. You'll then want to wriggle the lower part of the legs off to the side. We can then flip our attention to the back and hinge and detach these sections here like so. And now you'll want to rotate at the waist so that the chest piece is facing forwards. Now we can set this here off to the side. As we turn our attention to the arms, I would recommend locking them back into place so that we can see one of the super cool tricks as far as the engineering is concerned. Now I believe it's this side, as we only have a drag strip. You're going to want to fold the fist down until that does snap into place. Now, like many of you guys will know, when we actually got drag strip, there was no clear way on how he would actually be able to detach to form Menasor's arm until now. So basically what you're going to want to do is to take him and attach him onto all of these different posts that we've got on the side of the skeleton, and just snap all of these here in upon themselves. And that will basically trigger a locking mechanism that will allow you to take the upper section of the arm and just split this section here right in half. Now, I don't know about yourselves, but that is so cool. And as mentioned beforehand, really is something that I don't believe we have ever seen as far as engineering for Transformers is concerned. That is wicked. You can actually have the car as its own distinctive deluxe that will not separate unless you actually have this piece. That is so awesome. Then what we're going to want to do is just hinge this section up and over. And the same can also be said here for this side. So just hinge this up like so, take the wheels and snap them into place. That is one arm fully complete. We'll then come here to this side. Sadly, as we don't have either dead end or breakdown, this transformation will be a little less satisfying, but nevertheless, you'll still just want to break these components up. And no doubt in the future we'll have a very similar locking mechanism working for some of the other Stunticons. As you guys can see, there are a few different tabs and slots for this side, but just take the wheels, snap that down, and then we bring the legs into the equation. Now, we actually do have Wild Rider, so I can showcase the transformation for Menasor's left leg. As you guys can see, these legs will be completely hollow until you have the respected Stunticon. Now, here at the back, you can see we've got 2 ports as well as 2 tabs. These are going to snap into the underside, and something which I thought was really cool is when you actually peg this on, it will push against this spring-loaded mechanism, which will actually close that door up. And you can see the sculpt work here for kind of the front section section of the shin is almost identical to the undercarriage kibble for Wild Rider. That is just such an amazing attention to detail. I really do think this is one of the best engineered pieces we have seen for the Transformers toy line in a very long time. So just to demonstrate how that will work, you'll want to line this up, snap that section there into place, and just push all of these pegs, and as you guys can see, it will close that trapdoor up, and there we have Wild Rider completely pegged on to the left leg of Menasor. Really awesome engineering where that's concerned. Now we can bring back in our Motormaster component, take this section, hinge this down, this will slide in like so, snap into place, and then this section will come from the underside and just port into the back of Motormaster. And then as far as these sections are concerned, they too will lock into place. Now, as far as the combining mechanisms are concerned, this is exactly what we saw for Combiner Wars. It was a very simple yet incredibly effective system, and I'm really glad to see it carried over here for our legacy Menasor. So it is basically that spring loaded clip. You'll just want to shoot these components in and that will clip down, really solidifying these here into place. Of course, rinse and repeat the same here for this side. And as we come now to the top of Menasor, the arms will slide over the top and will actually click into place incredibly securely. And the same can also be said here for this side. And with all that being said, here we have the Transformers Legacy Commander Class Motormaster fully transformed and combined into Menasor, at least for now, until we get those two remaining Stunticons. And at least in my opinion, this just looks absolutely incredible. Now, as you guys know, I have picked up a few of the other combiners, such as the King Poseidon, Piranacon, and even Ruination, and I really didn't think they were perfect. For the most part, they were very floppy. I just thought Combiner Wars in general wasn't the best. They weren't that fun to pose around. They weren't actually very secure and stable when on the shelf. This guy is a whole other kettle of fish. This is super solid and is probably one of the best combiners that I have ever seen Hasbro produce. Now, considering that we don't as of yet actually have the two remaining Stunticons, I won't do a full-on review of this guy. I'll merely just go over what we have as of yet, but for the most part, it's giving us a pretty good indication that this guy is going to be terrific. Now, as we bring him in here for a closer look, that head sculpt for Menasor just looks fantastic. So much better than the previous version. You can see an amazing silver there for the faceplate, those red eyes, as well as these wickedly evil horns which stick out to the sides. I just think the torso itself is so dense. This is such a heavy combiner, and we don't even have the two remaining deluxes actually added on yet. You can see here for the arm that actually now has drag strip attached. I think this looks fantastic. The fact that we do get a full rotation here out the elbow and it isn't restricted due to the car is just mind-blowing in my opinion. Now, as far as the actual lower section is concerned, you can see some very nice sculpt work. I love all the hydraulic detail that we've got here for this midsection. You can see the thighs look great. And as mentioned previously, the fact that they have detailed the front of the shin to match the underside of Wild Rider is just such a nice attention to detail, and you can even see the sculpt work here for the feet don't look too bad. If I were to be critical, I do wish he had better hands. I imagine a third-party company will come out with an upgrade kit for this guy, but I wish we had articulated fingers much like Piranacon. As far as articulation is concerned, this guy will have a swivel joint here at the head. Ratchet joints where the shoulders are concerned, very heavy duty ratchet joints. This guy is not floppy at all. You can see the legs are not becoming detached. They're not all loose and dangly. Really nicely done. We will also get a hinge joint out to the side, as well as a ratchet joint here at the elbow, which will be able to bend roughly to 90, a ratchet joint here where the wrist is, as well as a full uncompromised waist joint. The hips can kick forwards that far to a fantastic range, as well as back. You'll want to be sure that you don't apply too much pressure to the wrong region so that you don't actually detach the leg. They can also click back, but the ratchets are super heavy. They will be able to kick out to the sides also on ratchet, as well as rotate here at the thigh. We will get a 90-degree bend there at a ratchet for the knee, and finally also a ratchet joint here where the ankles are concerned for a full ankle rocker tilt. That is so nicely done. So definitely shaping up to be an amazing combiner. Now, accessory-wise, as mentioned previously, we do get the same sword that we saw for Motormaster. I still do think it's slightly too small here for the combined mode. It doesn't look terrible, but I do just wish it was slightly bigger. And as far as that mounted turret is concerned, you can see that when you actually flip this panel out, it is pretty in scale. With this guy, you can definitely having him actually utilize this, but considering he's such a big combiner as it stands, I really don't think he would actually use this type of weapon. Or if you wanted to, you could detach this here and give this to him as a means of firepower, which looks a little better in this mode when in comparison to just the Motormaster. And I also know there'll be some of you wondering as to whether or not this guy is compatible with some of the previous combiners. Now here I have a leg of what I believe is Ruination. Yes, they are completely compatible. So as we spin our attention here to the back, you'll just want to detach this leg. We can then take this section and slide that there over the top, and you can see it works exactly the same as some of our previous Combiner Wars figures. So you could definitely mix and match a few of the limbs, but these will be a little smaller when in comparison to our Menasor legs. Turning to some size comparisons here for the combined form of Menasor, we've got Legacy Menasor compared alongside a previous Combiner Wars combiner. Commander class, Shattered Glass, Jetfire, and you can see that these guys are more or less exactly the same height, with maybe Menasor just being ever so slightly taller as far as a head-to-head is concerned. Earthrise Leader Optimus Prime, Siege Voyager Megatron, and finally Commander class Rodimus Prime. And so, some final thoughts for this Transformers Legacy Commander Class Motormaster. Overall, this has got to be one of the top 10 releases put out by Hasbro in the past decade. From an engineering perspective, this is by far one of the best mainline mass-produced figures that I've ever reviewed over on the channel, as we just focus on the truck and trailer mode first of all. Whilst of course, especially where the trailer is concerned, this is the mode that has the most compromises made, I still don't think it looks too bad. I'm a massive fan that it is actually to scale for the most part with the Earthrise Leader Optimus Prime, and the actual cab mode is fantastic, especially where the paint and the detail goes. A really nice representation of the leader of the Stunticons. I think transformation from the truck into the robot mode is very, very intricate. Once again, definitely does feel like a leader class, as you would expect, and I think that the robot mode makes it undeniably the best mass-produced version of Motormaster that we've ever seen. And despite this guy being a combiner, for the most part, the robot and truck mode go completely unhindered. You could actually have it as being its own character, not related to Menasor at all, and you probably wouldn't be able to tell that it was a combiner. That robot mode is so nicely done, especially where the details are concerned to the original 80s series. I think articulation for the most part is very well done. And then we turn to the trailer itself. I think the transformation from getting it into the trailer to the battle station definitely takes quite a few fair steps. Am I a big fan of the battle station? No, it's something that I personally will probably never use again, but it is a nice throwaway mode, especially for those of you who wish to display Motormaster in his singular robot mode and don't want to put the trailer into storage. You can transform it up into that battle station, and I guess it creates for quite a nice dioramic piece to display alongside some of the other Stunticons. I really do think it's that transformation from getting both Motormaster and the trailer into the combined form that will blow many collectors away. I personally absolutely love the engineering that has been packed into the arms. The way drag strips seamlessly split into two components without you having to use any additional tools is just fantastic. You can have drag strip play with him all night and all day, and you'd never know there was actually a locking mechanism until you got this Motormaster. It's so well done. I also think the way that Wild Rider attaches onto the back of the legs, which then will fold out those trapdoors, is a really nice touch, something that we haven't as of yet seen on a Transformer as far as I can remember. And then when we actually turn him into that combined form, this has undeniably got to be one of the best combiners that we have ever seen. The structural integrity is next level, so much better when in comparison to pretty much any of the combiners that we saw for Combiner Wars. At least for me, pretty much all of them, especially that King Poseidon / Piranacon, were a floppy mess, whereas this guy really is built like brick. You can give him a good shake and none of the joints will detach, none of the arms or the legs will flop about. He really is very stable and secure, meaning that he will no doubt, once we get all of the Stunticons, be the best combiner that we have ever seen. And he's also a pretty decent scale. Would have I liked him a little bigger? Definitely, but when actually fully assembled into this combined mode, he's roughly that of the Commander Jetfire, which I think is a more than reasonable enough scale for a set of Stunticons. I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. What do you guys think of this guy? Do you think he is as great as I'm making him out to be, or perhaps are you slightly underwhelmed? Definitely be sure to sound off down in the comment section below, and as always, I thank you all so much for watching. Until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.